scene for Living World of Darkness Werewolf, Rage Across New York. Our scene starts off with Stormeye, Zelda Korakova, who is the uh, one of the few theurges on Sept, who's supposed to be meeting up with an elder, somebody who is basically considered her elder, an Athro, that she's been working pretty closely with the past few days, to discuss some possible arrangements for joining his pack. So we will start off the scene with Zelda actually sitting on a bench that is across from the lake. Um, that's probably just next to the Fianna Castle. Um, and probably one of the like offshoot alcoves or whatever, that you can kind of just either reach out and feed ducks or just sit there and just kind of contemplate life as it is. And she just sits there. She has a laptop in her lap. She seems to be messing with some production programming, some kind of production program for music on her laptop with her headphones in. She seems to be rather into it as her head seems to like jerk in small, slight motions, probably to the beat of the music, as she is a DJ. So, yeah, and she's basically sitting there waiting for her ride to arrive.
Jacob shows up not too long after Zelda sits down, maybe after a couple minutes. He can be seen just wearing casual clothes. He's off duty, so he's not wearing his uniform or anything. He's just got a kind of a cup of coffee in his hands, and just sort of saunters on over towards her very casually.
Yeah, when he arrives, she sees him at his peripheral vision, at her peripheral vision, and she kind of does that tip of the head where you kind of like pull headphones out of your ears, and goes about saving her work, and then closes the laptop and slips it into a bag uh, that's at her feet, and she just leans back real casually, lays her rests her arms on the back of the chair, um, and she looks pretty casually, like she looks very comfortable. It's the style's a little eccentric. It's very tomboyish, but has some feminine elements to it. Like the shirt is black, but it has like this fishnet kind of pattern over it. She wears like a snapback cap that just sits at the back of her head, and her hair is styled like really in a short crop fashion, but with like a swoop, like a comb over or something too as well, with some kind of like very like modern Eurocentric kind of cut into it. It's very interesting style. Nothing too outlandish, but um, she, if you were in a crowd with her, she would probably stick out just a little bit if somebody just wanted to make a deal about it. But other than that, yeah, she just looks very comfortable and just like very herself. And she just looks over to Jacob and she just says, "Ah, good to see you."
Likewise, likewise. How you doing?
You know, same soup, different, or same soup, just reheated. I heard that the other day. Seems when you ask people around here, the usual response is living the dream. but I think the other one I heard was same suit just reheated, which I'm assuming means same shit, different day. I don't know. Americans are funny.
Yeah, we tend to be.
How's everything going with you?
Okay, still need to chat with Toby. Gonna be I think it's gonna be pretty hectic next week, so you might not see me around as much. But I'll still be around. But set positions are dragging me away from what I'd rather be doing.
Seems like that comes with the life of being an athro.
Pretty much. Bureaucracy. It's kind of irritating.
I
Haven't really
understand
had to
that.
haven't really had to deal with it up until now.
Hmm.
At least from a Garu perspective.
Hmm. Well, keep climbing the ranks. That seems that'll seem to be your major battles compared to what us grunts deal with.
Yeah, it's
But fair enough. I hope wherever you go, at least it won't be too. Hopefully, it won't be too much trouble for you.
won't be a big deal, I don't think. Just just a distraction. I guess this guy's worth telling me to go on timeout.
If only we were so lucky to have a cool off period. I don't know what I would do. I think I would rather just stay here and be useful than just, well, cool off wherever. I think I would be kind of cheating the system in a sense. And though usually I'm not too upset by cheating the system, but uh, for something like as serious as what we do, I don't know. I don't know if I'll be all too comfortable with it.
Well, is it time for work and is it time for play, I guess?
Hmm.
Not that what I'm going to be doing is playing, but still.
Yeah.
Uh, right. I've spread the word about that anger spirit, so hopefully someone's going to get on that.
Oh, that's good. I haven't been able to get the attention of Here Comes the Boom at least. I mean, there's something about him being busy.
Yeah. Hopefully they don't. No, well, whoever's going to go after it doesn't drag their feet, because yeah, I can imagine that being quite problematic.
Mm-hmm. And considering that another Garu might have done this, yeah, that makes it much more of an issue. Mm. Last thing we need is a angry spirit of what incarnate level that wants us to make things right because somebody else screwed up and we're the only ones that can really deal with it. I don't want that. I don't want.
Incarna are not simple to deal with.
Yeah. So what's up? Did you have something on your mind or?
I actually wanted to make you an offer. Also, I suppose conveniently ask you a favor, as you kind of fit the parameters of who I was looking for, but that's neither here nor there.
She kind of quirks a brow at that, but okay.
No, well, there's no point in really being ceremonial about it. I'd rather cut to brass tacks. Well, I'd like for you to join our pack.
She blinks for a minute and then tilts her head a bit and looks at him. Huh. Well, I have to say I'm a little bit surprised, considering I considering the at least the the talk we had at Saxon's place. I didn't know. Surprised that with the seem to have a little bit of an ideological difference.
I mean, I generally consider the difference to be more helpful than a hindrance. I mean, I'm sure you've noticed that I can be a bit of an ideologue at times. A sobering voice might actually be helpful
Hmm.
in keeping my judgment clear.
Hmm.
And, well, the sept is the sept needs a new generation of leaders. I did my part a while ago, and I'm still doing it, but at some point, either I'm going to die because something big and bad enough will finally get me, or my duties as a high ranking Garu may call me elsewhere.
Hmm.
It's already happened once, actually, twice. And this sept is frankly divided.
In what way?
Dozens of Garu running solo, doing their own thing, going over each other's heads. Disorganized, unfocused, and frankly quite selfish. Everybody wants to form their own little in crowd. They all want it done their way. They all want it. They all want their totem, them in charge, their power, as opposed to considering the perspectives of those who they would presumably be working with.
Hmm.
And so they don't. They don't work together. They don't have. We don't have many packs as a whole. We all wind up weaker because everybody wants to do things their own way.
I think I've kind of seen the same thing. Many, though, seem to be predisposed to trying to justify their actions with their morality way too much. They want to make sure that they're all, no matter what they do, that they come out to be the good guy no matter what, and are afraid to offend others. This is why they see the Silver Tusks as a threat, because the Silver Tusks are, for one, coordinated, and two, they're pragmatic in how they handle situations. Yeah, it does. I don't agree with everything that they do, but they follow one voice, and that is Blood Eclipses.
Precisely. As far as I'm concerned, as much as people hate them, the Silver Tusks are the bar, and the bar isn't being met.
I agree.
And so, from both a practical and from, well, my personal ethical viewpoints, I would be, to be honest, I'd be pretty sad if I one day left the Sept to see that the Silver Tusks were leading the way on it. And it would frustrate me to see those that purportedly believe in the code for Sept of the Green fall to the wayside because they can't stop bickering with each other. Unable to see the forest for the trees. But yeah, you're very much correct. That's why I haven't really. Some people I think have been expecting me to act against the Silver Tusks or turn things around on them as per my role.
Hmm. I guess that's because
That's
you're one of the singular entities of rank here, and frankly, you've been here longer. I don't know. Maybe they see that you're the cure to them as a cancer just because of that, when they're actually quite wrong.
I like to consider myself an ethical person relative to the duties I must perform. But as you say, I've have created a lot of changes around this set. If there's one thing I am quite proud of saying, it's that the set was not the same as before I entered, and will likely be different after I leave, if I leave. But I'm not just going to clamp down on the Silver Tusks because they work differently. I do consider a lot of what they do to be slimy, suspect, some cases just outright abusive. And if it were to become too overt, particularly to the point of obvious harm to the Sept, but if it were, for example, to just start going and beating up Harlequin in the middle of the Sept or on the street, I'd take issue.
Hmm.
Because that is just wanton cruelty, and I have no time for that.
It
But
takes away from other things that we should be doing. It makes us more inefficient as a whole.
it's inefficient and it's cruel. Again, it kind of satisfies both criteria of just being, you know, unproductive.
Hmm.
But they haven't reduced themselves to that because ultimately they've held down their turf. They, I don't think they see the need to be openly cruel because, one, they don't have to be.
And two, they don't want to be the focus of everybody else on the set, especially a lot of the younger, more uh, emotional members. They don't want to be the rallying cry.
They still see the bigger picture. I remember when Moses challenged, not challenged them, but attacked their worldview very openly and very obviously. Almost sucked them into, and Roland almost quite cleverly sucked them into a challenge.
Hmm.
Um, only, only when I pointed out that what they'd be reacting to would in fact be a challenge that did Brisingamen in particular restrain herself. So they're still capable of seeing the bigger picture. They're just extremely Darwinistic. But they do their job. And I think people incorrectly believe that being a part of this set means you have to be everybody's friend. You don't. You just have to work with people when necessary.
Exactly.
In no profession are you going to be everybody's friend. I have plenty of cops that I fucking hate in my precinct, but they do their jobs. So I let them do it. And as bad as the Silver Tusks may be at times, as long as they do not abandon their duties,
No, and let
and
bygones be bygones.
exactly. I mean, there are ideological conflicts. I wish for, obviously, considering my ideology is in conflict with theirs, I wish for mine to be more prominent, but they haven't really attacked that, at least. They haven't said what you're doing is wrong. Rather, my main concern is that just they become so powerful that they become the norm, and that their way of doing things becomes the norm. They prove it through merit.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I wish somebody else would prove it through merit. And right now, you're one of the very few people I think who's actually doing that.
I've tried to open the eyes of the others here, but they're all they all rather just kind of stay insular and not keep their attention where the or see things for the things that they are. And honestly, I don't even know if they really see the bigger picture in all this either. Truth be
Mm,
told, I don't get along with a lot of people in this sept. Truth be told, I don't even know if I really truly get along with you either. But you, so far, have proven to show that you at least think, and that was evident at the last moot, and I was really impressed by that.
well, At the risk of sounding self-indulgent, what did you consider impressive? Because I don't consider myself. I certainly hope it wasn't the story itself, because I'm no Galliot.
Just at the fact that the peddler's head came in the box, and you didn't just jump it to conclusions about who did it and what, like everybody else did. Like that really sets you apart from the others. I don't know if it's just because you're more wise and you have more rank, and you've seen these things before, but just the fact that you shown forethought and even took just time to try to piece things together so that way you can just present it in a rational manner just really set you from everybody else. And that's something I can respect.
Mm. Likewise, working with you, I've seen you handle yourself very professionally. Maybe digging for the favor over the box may have been a bit much, in my opinion. But outside of that, you've acted well. Whoever you've been working with, you've worked with them as a unit. You've worked to get the job done. You've been willing to take on the tasks you need to take on in order to get the job done, regardless of whether or not they're inside or outside of your particular field. Which, as someone who's, I suppose, has been there in the distant past, is I can understand this often a lot more complicated and dangerous than it often sounds like it is, particularly given what you ran into a few days ago.
Sometimes the simplest thing or the most pragmatic thing to do is to run. I was not proud of that, but it had to be done. I'm not going to waste myself over something like that. But
No, I wouldn't have stayed to fight either. I may have stayed if it were a Bane, but that is because I possess a very specific set of skills. So I wouldn't expect it of anybody else. But even myself, I would have retreated from it.
mm,
So I, at the very least, I'm not going to be judging you or accusing you of cowardice. I hope nobody else does, but we are a boastful society. And as we've seen from the silver tusks, many of us will take any inch we can get,
Yeah.
including if it means taking a few cheap shots at somebody's recent actions.
But going back to the favor that I tried to get from the box, yeah, that was thinking about it now, that was a mistake. I just can't stand willful ignorance, and that was all that I saw before me, and it being subject to, and I just kind of lost it.
Well, then we're of like minds because I've been fighting willful ignorance in nation my entire existence here. Which, admittedly, given that I came from a callow kinfolk, has only been a few years. The fact that it's normalized so much for me, I think, is quite damning, actually. But yes, it's. I didn't wish to jump to conclusions. In fact, oftentimes I tend to veer the other way towards perhaps too hesitant, looking for too many details and too much evidence, looking for too much certainty where ultimately there is none. Something I've slowly been growing out of. It's probably one of my most significant flaws in the fact that it is difficult to discern as one. Normally, being thorough is considered a positive trait. In my case, I don't believe so. But that is one of the reasons why I asked you to join my pack, to be that sobering voice, and also because, as I said, this set needs some unity, and it needs an example to follow behind.
Hmm. I have to admit that I am very traditional, at least when it comes to my idea of unity. Which you might think is unity to me is considered a certain air of dominance, but not dominance in the way of brute force and pounding your chest, but consider consider the traditional wolf pack and how there is truly no real alpha or beta, at least not in a familial unit or in a familial unit. But in a group such as like you and I, for some reason we should pack together. Your voice is the one that we should rally behind because you are the proven one. Traditional wolf packs that are not of family follow the same structure.
Hmm.
So that would be my course of action would be to make sure others kind of live up to that standard, and if they, or at least try to mold them where they come to that point and they start being beacons of uh, or at least leaders in their own right.
Hmm.
Oh, see, I hope that makes sense because I think I screwed that up a little bit, but yeah.
Mostly, what were you trying to say? 'Cause I think I
uh
get it, but
but that basically like wolf packs, like if they're a family unit, like they have like an alpha beta structure, but like Garu, they can't have that. Like they go by uh god damn it, because I'm trying to read, because I read it in the fucking Shadow Lord book, but they follow, like, who has, basically kind of like proven themselves, and Shadow Lords should be the ones to kind of like do that because we know that we can prove it ourselves, something like that, that we can be the leader that everybody needs to be, type of thing. It's very nuanced, so it's a little hard to describe, but yeah.
they basically prove yourself through your actions.
Yeah, something like that. But Shadow Lords typically say like, we're the best. So obviously we should make sure that we're trying to ascend to, positions of leadership, or if we can't, make sure that somebody else can.
It's basically meritocracy times nine.
Yeah, very nuanced, but yeah.
Very nuanced. Um, no, Jacob just kind of nods his head. He doesn't seem to be in particular disagreement actually, which may be surprising. Um, no, I can see the logic in that. I've actually at various points actually worked quite extensively with certain members of your tribe, so I have something of an insight into the mindset.
Well,
But
then that's
that
good.
and I, well, I prefer the idea of a meritocracy compared to what we currently have,
Hmm.
which may sound slightly puzzling compared to when it's coming from the mouth of someone who descends from a tribe of monarchists, but I've
That
always
is
interpreted.
rather
Hmm,
that is rather unsilverfing of you. Yes.
I've always interpreted the uh, tribal mantras as a burden and a responsibility, a standard to be met, not something that is simply inherited.
Hmm.
A failed Silverfang perhaps should stand out among all other failed Garu, as they are the ones who are expected to lead. They are the ones that are most responsible, in the sense that they are responsible for the failures of those around them, for they are the ones expected to guide the nation. It's strange in a way. Rather, no. I think both the Silverfangs and the Shadowlords obviously wish to guide the nation,
Oh yes.
and the end goal is ultimately the same, which is saving Gar and defeating the worm in some context or another, which shifts basically every other day of the week,
Hmm.
or every time some Theurge gets a bright new idea on how to destroy the worm from top to bottom. It's rarely paid off in my experience. But I think the fact that something that's always annoyed me is how our tribes have been diametrically opposed. On the surface level, it makes sense in that Shadowlords hold to a meritocratic view, and the Silverfangs traditionally hold to a monarchistic view, or a hereditary view. But we are both among tribes that have generally poised themselves as most fit to lead, and at various points in our history have openly proved it. I would point to Isaiah. I assume you would point to the current Margrave.
Yes.
An interesting man, although we didn't have the opportunity to share many words, unfortunately.
You met him.
When I was an Adrian,
Hmm.
he was attempting. He was requesting entry into a Black Fury sept, but was denied for he was a man and not a woman.
She just, I don't know, just something about somebody denying, having the gall to deny the migraine is just kind of funny to her. But it's not in like a scornful way, but it's just like, wow, the balls on, or the tits on those people, like, or whatever. Like, uh,
So clearly, that sept is either going to be the Margraves or it's going to be theirs for the next 500 years. I guess we'll see. Typically amused, kind of joking.
hopefully they're good at some kind of form of contrition or whatever before that happens.
This is one of the Fury's more, how to say, one of the more closely held septs.
Ah,
It's it's possible that the denial was actually more of an excuse than anything else, but we'll see.
hmm.
I it was, if I recall, yeah, it was Greek, if I recall correctly. So it is
Mm.
very much in their heartlands.
Oh,
Um,
and
well,
perhaps the
we
Margrave should have known better.
perhaps you don't. Well, you're not going to learn the limits of your power unless you test it. I'm
That's
still
a
exploring mine as an afro.
hmm.
In theory, I suppose I could press gang half the sept into joining my pack, but I'd rather not. It has no longevity to it.
I can respect the approach of that approach, but yes, it would be not many would be very inclined to follow a leader such as that, at least here, anyways. Perhaps
Mm.
back in Europe, but not here in New York.
I've worked pretty hard to garner a reputation of goodwill and good faith, so I refuse to act overtly against the Silver Tusks. In that, if they make a challenge, I'm going to make sure that that challenge is fair. One, because it's literally my responsibility as a Philodox and as the Master of Challenges, but also because I didn't build up this reputation to throw it away over somebody else's gripe with them.
Hmm. That's understandable.
Mm.
Well
But
then, so tell me about. I'm assuming you have a totem in mind, or you already have one.
Lion is still with me. He never left. When Roy vanished into no man's land,
Hmm.
Jacob looks pretty cross at this. OC, I don't think the reasons for Roy's departure have been figured out yet, so Jacob just kind of looks cross as if it's like this was. Cross isn't really a word. He looks frustrated,
Hmm.
slightly betrayed. And it doesn't sadden him, it's not like it angers him.
Hmm. Well, considering Jacob's history, I could see that.
Jesus Christ, yeah. Like how many packs has he lost because people just left?
Hmm.
um,
So
Line didn't actually leave me after Roy left. Line's been with me for a good while now and was of great assistance to me in my Afro challenge.
what does Lion expect of somebody who follows them?
Hmm. Well, Lion is a proud totem, so he's not going to expect. He doesn't wish for patrons that are anything less than himself. He would expect. It's difficult for me to say. It would be easier for me to say what Lion does not expect rather than what Lion does expect. For Lion expects excellency, and he expects feedback from that excellency. He expects those who are his patrons to be followed as his patrons follow him. And that requires strength and gravitas and abandon.
Hmm. It
So
almost
that
seems.
which can acquire such power and gravitas is welcome to the Lion.
Hmm. I can see that aligning with the overall what it means to be a Shadow Lord in a sense. There's a little nuance there, but I think it could probably work where I won't offend the totem.
Hmm. Jacob considers for a brief moment whether to mention the ban of Lion. Very much so. Lion is as much empowered by our actions as we are. In particular, our more overt and glorious ones.
Hmm.
It is
The-
something that Lion is invigorated by, in particular.
hmm. Very much hear me roar then.
Oh, they'll knock you down. It is one of his gifts to us.
Hmm.
You would have the power to cry out so strongly that, well, it would literally knock people off their feet. And those who would seek to challenge your position, even those who would be your equals, would be at a disadvantage.
Hmm.
It's a sort of aura, I guess. Something you have to call upon directly. I suppose, to make sense of it. I suppose me making sense of it is doing it a disservice in a sense, but imagine if we were in a stare down and you were both evenly matched. A lion would give you the edge just by you, if you were to call upon it.
She nods, sort of understanding this. Also realizing that um,
Hey, isn't
Grandfather
that one
Thunder
Shadow Lord
also.
gift?
Yeah, also that Grandfather Thunder also supplies such things.
It's almost like lions stole a bunch of Shadow Lord gifts, or you stole a bunch of lion gifts.
Lion, you biter. But but yeah, she just nods in understanding and just says, I understand where you're coming from. Fortunately, Grandfather Thunder seems to confer similar gifts and abilities and somewhat expects the same of us. He requires nothing but excellence and strength, uh, and from his children. Though I don't know about the overtness, but I think that's something that I could could learn to provide or do, though um, it does seem what's the word?
Trust me, am not a particularly hard-spoken person, but if I can learn, I think you can learn. I'm not expecting you to start yelling every time you walk onto set.
That would just garner way too much attention. I don't think anybody needs. But yeah, perhaps I
But
could
I
put
think
on different spectacles for him that maybe he might appreciate.
you can. Well, let me just say this: if I didn't think you could meet the standard of lion, I wouldn't be considering you for the pack.
Fair enough. Okay.
So know that I expect great things from you, Zelda.
Well, you wouldn't be the first, so sure. I will take this offer and embark on this journey with you, Jacob Raya. Perhaps lead this sept into a new era of leaders.
Just the two of us for now, but hopefully there will be more of us down the line. I do have prospects for more among us. In fact, I'm actually quite happy to discuss it with you.
Sure. Actually,
Yeah,
let me know. Actually, so maybe I can start working on them as well.
and actually, before we kind of shift to that, I would like to state that I am pleasantly surprised by how how smooth and professional this entire conversation was. I did not expect it. Uh,
What did you
I must.
expect?
I don't know. Maybe it always kind of falls apart. I envision this grand speech in my head, and I will say this and that, and then I realize, no, we can just talk like people rather than Shakespearean cliches.
Hmm. Sometimes
Um,
just being really simple about things and plain about things is the best, right?
that's generally I found that honesty is the best policy.
Mm.
Uh, no,
She's like,
Jacob smiles at that because he says that knowing that she doesn't necessarily agree with that. And he kind of chuckles. Hey, remember, I'm the Philodox. It's my job to be fair.
yeah.
And and if that is something of I will say it's probably the one. There is the one ethic that the Silver Fangs do are quite picky over. It is the idea of honor. It's a subject of a lot of debate, but it's also something that's quite sacred within the tribe. It's why Philodoxes are often more respected in our tribe than
Hmm.
perhaps others. It's also why we have a bit more pressure on us.
I see. It's
It's
somewhat of the same thing for us as Theurges as in Grandfather Thunder's
mm,
uh, as Grandfather Thunder's children. We have the most pressure on us as well.
well, I'm happy to see and help you rise to that pressure.
Well, I'm going to hold you to that.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to hold your hand. Told more or less the same thing to Havaka, but when we pack, mates, I'll have your back.
And she really looks at him when he says that, and because like Shadow Lord's gonna Shadow Lord, and like the true test of that comes in when that actually comes up.
Mm.
But
Just Just don't do what Icarus does and go over my head. If you're gonna, I know you probably already know this. I shouldn't really be having to say it, but the situation I have had to deal with Harvaka and Icarus recently kind of begs me stating it anyway.
Icarus went over Havoc's head.
Several times from what I've been told. I can tell you right now, Icarus went straight over my head when he straight up lied to an agent of my tribe. Jacob just kind of looks down, he kind of opens his mouth and his tongue kind of moves in his mouth, kind of like as if to say, "Yep," but he doesn't. He just looks back up at you. So obviously, you are going to do things that don't necessarily engender you to the same sort of reputation that I'm very privileged to have. And for the most part, to be honest, I don't really mind it. After all, I have packed up with several gangsters and even covered up one of crimes. It's not something I normally do, and not something I'm very happy with doing. But all I'd ask is that, yeah, just try not to go over my head when you do something. Just because that falls back on me, and I just need to be prepared or informed of it if it's going to happen.
I will try to limit that as much as I can, and if I can let you know, I will let you know. And if for some reason I do fail, I fully expect you to, make me aware of that in whatever way you deem necessary. Usually by throating. But
I trend away from corporal punishment where I can. I've very rarely done it, mainly because I feel as if the whole point of corporal punishment is for it to be rare. If it is normalized, it is ineffective, in my opinion. Also, being the soft-hearted pseudo child of Gaia that I am, ethics. But it's a combination of both.
She just chuckles at you because just soft-heartedness and all that stuff just makes her kind of just giggle. I don't know.
Oh, you're cute.
Yeah, kind of.
Jacob actually doesn't really register it as a form of disrespect, mainly because it's been so easily weaponized for him at this point. He doesn't care. So many people think that, and it's like, well, I mean, I can't just, I have silver, so I don't care. If I have a problem with you, I'll cut your head off, sort of thing. Then again, I say I'm soft-hearted. I executed 3 people, so Jacob kind of raises his eyebrows as if to say, as if to kind of showcase his own hypocrisy, or the awkwardness of his own hypocrisy.
Well, I mean that is your job, to uphold the laws of Gaia and such, and putting people to the sword is part of your purview. I don't see that as being a hypocrite.
My duty becomes before my own views.
I agree.
But yeah, the other person I was thinking of bringing in was Roland. I haven't really seen any else of the same capacity yet. I've been for 1 moment. Sorry about that.
No problem.
I've been eyeing up Dorian as well, but I don't necessarily want to bring him in until he's a clear. I know this sep seems to have a thing for picking up cubs as packmates now, but I'd like him to get a little bit more, have little bit more room to grow first, prove
Mhm.
himself a little bit more, and also he really needs to stop freaking out when he sees me. Kind of hard to have a packmate that wants to kill you on sight.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Hmm. What kind of growth do you think Dorian needs?
Well, I haven't really seen him in a proper combat situation yet. To be honest, I haven't really seen much of him at all.
Hmm.
Really, I just need to see him mature a little. I need to see him his capabilities in a combat situation, and I need to see his judgment in those situations, in just most situations in general. His sense of awareness and, well, I suppose a less glamorous way of putting it is common sense, but his better judgment is what I need to see from him right now. His blanket hatreds of people of my profession, as understandable as it is, uh, has well has been shown to be nothing more than a weakness for him. It hasn't stopped him from doing his job or working with me so far, however, which I respect and is a sign that he is heading in the right direction. So uh, I do have hopes for him, as
Mhm.
he has shown that he is trending in the right way. We'll see though. Mm, he still has a lot of room to grow, also a lot of room to make mistakes. Uh, and I need to see a little bit more from him in more intense situations before I'd be ready to take him on. As if he's freaking out upon seeing me, uh, even if he's managed to keep it in check so far, does also led me to question his judgment in situations where he'll be expected to take on the mantle of leader in combat in war.
Hmm.
I have no doubt that he would have no problem being a front line for people, but as we both know, Narun is expected to be much more than that.
Yeah, I understand that he is considering being a Shadow Lord, and if he is, truthfully, I would welcome it. He does seem to have the mindset for it, from what I've seen. So perhaps I could maybe work with him on that, if unless you find that to be too much intervention on our part or on my part. But if it's more experience you think he needs and you want to see more of him, then I can find things for him to do, especially something that befits this auspice.
There's no shortage of stuff, tasks to undertake. Uh, in particular, there's actually one happening in my territory right now. Something I've been looking into. Haven't got too many responses back from yet, but one I am investigating. I've already mentioned it to you. Is the opioid crisis happening in those select neighborhoods, affecting the homeless. Sudden uptick in the use and partaking of illicit substances. Normally wouldn't be an issue, but the situation surrounding it's a bit too sudden, which is usually a sign that an external party is involved. Uh, Obviously, criminals and uh, illegal organizations want to keep a low profile. They prefer to be take it subtle and slow if they can. So this level of overtness, this lack of tact suggests that there is another force at play.
Hmm. Well, I'll start looking at that as well. Perhaps I can give you some information that you weren't able to get before.
Hmm. There might be something on the side. If it may be nothing, but well, I'd rather not take chances.
I understand that there. Yeah, I don't like taking chances either. Well, I do sometimes, but yeah, it's best to just be sure, cover all our bases.
Hmm. But yeah, the other person is Roland. I need to see a little bit more from him first. But from what from what I have seen from him so far, he is treated his role with due reverence in a way I didn't quite expect. He is hardly a court jester,
No,
but he is.
he does seem to bring about certain things that people need to think about and very question about themselves, and he does it in a way that is, like you said, not in disrespect to his moon or to others,
Yes,
and very clever.
he's managed to go about making his points in the rather paradoxical combination of being very blunt yet inoffensive, um, which is a skill I haven't seen from many Ragabash on this set, to be honest.
Hmm.
And he does it in such a way that also resonates with this sept's culture, which suggests a degree of savviness that I'm happy to see, and I think will be needed.
Hmm.
I think he ties in his savviness into his ideology quite well. So I'm thinking of bringing him in as well. But do you have any concerns about him? After all, you are my voice of sobriety.
I think you're mostly right, although I think he might be too much. I just don't know how pragmatic he might be about going about certain things. I don't know if he'd be willing to get his hands dirty.
Mm, if he doesn't want to, his auspice may put him in that position whether he likes it or not.
That is true.
In any case, it will be expected of him at some point down the line. Even I have had to get my hands dirty. I mean, I executed three people, so it kind of
Hmm.
goes without saying, but if he wants to be anything more than a cliff, that's something he'll have to do. My Forstern challenge was actually to argue in someone's defense, not while having the fact admitted that they had effectively already made the decision, and I had to execute them.
Hmm.
It was
Interesting.
not tending to Phi sickness was the litany. That was in particular violation. The Gara in question was blinded and could no longer adequately fight, as if it wasn't just a blinding, as if their entire body had been weakened in some way. They came across as fragile. I'm not sure if it was physical or if it was trauma or even just spiritual, but there was something wrong there.
Hmm.
Personally, that I still believe in my defense, but having lost, it was also my responsibility to commit to the deed. Just as Roland at some point will have to commit to his deed if he challenges for Thorstein.
I'm just concerned whether he will commit to that or not. I mean, I could be wrong, it could be nothing, but from the talks I had with him, especially with Havaka and Icarus, they all seem to be pretty aligned with putting their morality above everything else.
Hmm. And I do sympathize with them in the context that it's hardly wrong to have a morality or an ideology to fight for. We all have different views on how the nation should be run, on how we feel the world should be. And it's not wrong to fight for those things, but we are also fighting a war where the stakes are as high as they possibly can be. So we can't always afford to do that, to put our ideology above our our duties.
That is very poignant and what I was trying to say. So yeah,
Hmm. I mean, I've been fortunate in that I've managed to largely do both, and perhaps perhaps that is a testament if for those who are capable enough, they can do both. Not always, but sometimes.
I
After
think
all,
that's fair. I think that's fair because as long as it's done when it needs to be done, because that is what is what it needs to be done. Period. You know, like.
it's the in many ways it's the bare minimum. But yes, I think we're in agreement. One can defend the world while also finding ways to change it. But we will see if. I guess we'll see if Roland sees it that way. Perhaps Tiny would have a pack. Maybe it would be worth giving him a trial one. It would at least give us the opportunity to prepare him for that eventuality. And
Yeah,
well, if he fails, hmm. And I suppose he would not have a place within the pack, but I am confident that he will overcome that particular challenge. I certainly haven't seen him fail yet, so it'll be interesting to see what he does fail at, because at some point we do all falter.
mm.
And that is also where we can come into play.
Sometimes the failure is more important than the success. So
Oh, yeah, I certainly feel you on that one. My early days as a clear for some of my least enjoyable as a Garu.
you'll have to tell me about that sometime.
Mm, I think I will, but would you be comfortable with Roland joining a pack for now?
She looks away for a minute. She kind of like bops her head, like thinking about it for a minute. And she just says, I don't see where he could hurt anything per se, so I don't see the need to say no
Mm,
at this time.
there's also the pragmatic advantage of the fact that if with Roland and if Dorian, who I'm confident can prove himself, all we would need would be a Galliot to round out a true pack. That would make us.
Quite formidable, and then on the
Mm,
level of the Silver Tusk, at least as far as all the all that we need for what, a silver pack. I think that's what it's called.
it's called like a true pack or something, but yeah, I see. I don't know. I can't remember. It's important. that would make us quite formidable. Actually, more formidable than the Silver Tusks. Is that not a true pack?
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
He says, actually, I believe it would make us more formidable than the Silver Tusks in terms of numbers and in terms of auspice, as they do not have a Ragabash. Still a
Oh,
formidable pack, but not.
you're right. I didn't think about that. Hmm. Well, yeah. Although I'm not too sure of any of the current Galliards on Sept if I would want them. Just being honest.
Haven't seen really anyone that has caught my. I know Milo's been up and about, but he is I haven't seen too much from him. He seems well, he's a Galliard. He's going to be hot-headed. It's natural, but
It's true. I talked to him the other day, though. I did warn him that I haven't seen much of him being a Galliard or acting in his role as such. I told him that he needs to start before people start asking questions because, if anything, he just seems like an Auron with the way he acts and carries himself. It might be attributed to his tribe, but there has to be something there. Tell a story or something.
it might be worth him seeing him voluntarily submit a story, even if it's one entirely of his own tribe, just something. But that may be worth doing at some point.
Yeah.
A moot to host stories. See if we can pick out any suitable Galliards. You see, that's a shame because Icarus is very talented as a Galliard. He just has a
Yes.
tendency to go over, well, just completely ignore the perspectives of his betters and the implications of his actions. Because, I must say, he's putting Harvicker at a great deal of risk.
Yeah.
Did you know, by the way, that he told the Silver Tusks about the books?
Wait, what?
Yeah,
Why?
I think he intended to use them as leverage to get back that lost territory.
At that point, that has to be a pride thing. That little bit of territory is not even that big, and compared to some artifacts, and I don't know. I mean, truth be told, the Silver Tusk would be better suited to guard it because they have the numbers to do so. But
I
man,
mean, the Silver Tusks just demanded the book. They showed up. He organized for me, Harvicker, and the Silver Tusks to show up at 7 o'clock yesterday. Didn't tell me about that. So I didn't elaborate on the situation at all, because as far as I'm concerned, he's drawn me into a conflict I didn't need to be a part of at all. And then Bloodicurts more or less said, "Oh, we have these books. Well, give them to me then. I'm here with hands. Why is the book not in them?" Much to my complete lack of surprise, because why wouldn't they just demand the book?
yeah,
They took Harvicker's. They took his pack. They took the Harvicker's pack's territory because they could, purely to make the point that they were stronger than him. Why wouldn't they do the same for the book? This isn't a matter of negotiation. They're not here to be reasoned with, which is, in my opinion, something of a weakness, because there's always a stronger force. Imagine that's why they haven't gone after me. Challenging me would be a very bad idea.
well,
But they know Harvicker is vulnerable. They know his pack is still establishing itself. They number 2. They number 4. They have an advantage in just about every possible sense.
yeah,
I could have rigged that challenge as much as I could have. there's really not a way I could have just secured Havaka and order an easy win without just being obvious about it, without just more or less saying, yeah, just giving this challenge to him and just saying you can't have the territory. Because they just have that much of an advantage right now. And as we've discussed, they are very much the bar right now. They're becoming the pack
Yep.
of the Scepter for Green. And Icarus is. Hold on a sec. Sorry about
No problem.
that. Icarus, yeah, putting is kind of playing into their hands without them really having to do anything. I think he seems to be under the misapprehension that they're willing to be talked to and negotiated with. This
Hmm.
is only putting Havakura with more risk, and
Yeah.
well, then then Havaka went too far in the opposite direction because then he almost, well, I literally had to step in and prevent Havaka from shooting Icarus.
Well, what?
He summoned a shroud of
Oh man.
darkness, eat him up, then attempted to shoot him. I had to walk in and tell him to cut the edge and put down the gun because he could have killed him.
Yeah.
And there's a different. The punishment doesn't really. No, we're not. This is no. As someone who has performed executions, this is not worth one. He didn't intend to kill him, I think, but it doesn't really matter when you're pointing a gun at someone.
No.
He's and he got the reason he did that is because he dragged Icarus off somewhere, and Blood Eclipse basically remarked to him as he left that he didn't think he had the teeth for it. So obviously Havaka got baited. I think the problem that Havaka and Icarus are suffering, well, Havaka's suffering from, is that he's following people. He's following what the world expects of him rather than just leading and being who he wants and believes in. Um, he isn't. He isn't. It's almost like he's trying to conform to some generic stereotype of a Garu alpha.
Hmm.
Like he's trying to. It's like he's playing at being leader rather than just being one.
Right.
He's not being honest with himself, and that's just hamstringing him. It's not unheard of. I've seen this before, and I went through this phase, so it happens. And
It might be worth it to look into his background and see where he comes from on that, because usually that's what determines how you handle such things when you're in the position of leadership.
from what, from what little I've heard, he has had a pretty ruthless childhood, which I think probably wouldn't surprise me if it involved the guns. But there you go.
Hmm.
Um, it's just a case of I think he's having trouble meeting the pressure that he's being ambushed with. I think if he were to meet it naturally, it wouldn't be so much as a problem. But mm,
He's being forced to face those type issues very quickly.
yes, and
Yeah.
by his own packmate, which needs to say makes him. I wouldn't be surprised if he feels a bit betrayed. In fact, I'm pretty sure he very much feels betrayed.
I would
He
definitely.
is. He is at least aware he's floundering a little. I think he just needs to reset and just focus on separate tasks for the moment. I think, ironically, the rather patronizing advice Blood Eclipse gave him of going south might actually be good.
Hmm.
Get him to not focus on the Silver Tusks, not focus on his grudge and the issues that have sprung up from them and his packmate, and focus on a completely separate task.
That would be good, and that would also work wonders for his confidence.
At least it will allow him to build himself up and also build up a reputation, which is something he is struggling with currently. But
Perhaps I'll talk to him and see if I can get him to do that.
that is, I had words with him after when he tried to shoot Icarus, so I think he's gotten the message. But we'll see. I do need to have words with Icarus though, because I don't think he's aware of just how much danger he's putting Havaka in. And that's not something one should do to their packmate, let alone their alpha.
Right.
So maybe that's something you could have words with him about, actually. In fact, yeah, a bit of tough love, as they say. But yeah, well, welcome to Lion's Pride.
Oh, is that the name of this two-man venture?
Yeah, it's called the Pride of the Sun. Actually, a name my cousin and a member of your tribe came up with.
It's a bit bright for me, but whatever.
I think it's because my tribe has connections to Helios.
I figured. I'm just being a jerk.
You're being facetious.
Yeah.
Well, my cousin gave me a lot of time to get used to that, so I have fun with it.
Oh, I will.
Yeah, I know. You didn't need to tell me that. I know.
I will push all your buttons. Just letting you know right now.
Yeah, but honestly, welcome to it. I am glad to have you on board, and I hope it won't just be the two of us in a week or so as well. You'll actually go to extend his hand as if to like formalize it.
Yeah, she'll extend her hand and take his and kind of complete the deal there. And she says, "Yeah, I appreciate the offer, and this is my first pack, so hope to keep it that way at least for a good while. And I look forward to whatever the future brings for us."
Me too. Looking forward to it. And yeah, I think with that handshake, I think that's where we can end the scene.
Yeah, and with that, thank you players for playing. Thank you watchers for watching. This has been another scene for Living World of Darkness, Rage Across New York.